This is a Shikumulo village, Mumias East Sub-County in Kakamega County. We meet 77-year-old Omar Mateshe. He says he began sugarcane farming in 1975. By then he was 31 years old.
Watoto yuko wengi hapa kusoma wanakwama. Shauri ya fisi. Ni hiyo miwa nilitoa fisi kupeleka kwa skuli. Sasa hakuna kitu. Form 1 wawili. Mwingine form 2. Sasa hakuna kitu. Mwingine form 4.
The closure of the miller after being hit by corruption and financial turbulence led many like Omar uprooting their cane and opting for alternative crops to support their livelihood. With the prevailing circumstances, poverty is part and parcel of his daily life. The sweetness that came with the company being operational is long gone.
Hayo mahindi inakataa, hakuna mbolea.
Meeting his basic necessities and paying school fees for his children and grandchildren has proved difficult.
Kukula shida, kupata nguo ni ngumu. Hii ndio unaona tupa mwili ndio tu peke yake. Sasa sisi iko kwa taabu tu.
Ramadhan Amukwani says Mumias Sugar Company used to step in whenever contracted farmers had difficulties.
Ukiwa mgonjwa unapeleka tu hospitali, alafu unapeleka contract ya miwa, alafu unatoa mgonjwa wako na Mumias yenyewe inalipa. Hata kwa shule ulikuwa unapeleka tu contract na mtoto anasoma, alafu Mumias yenyewe inalipa. Saa hii hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Saa hii mpaka uwe na cash.
A few meters from Omar's home, we meet Hassan Okusimba. He says he ventured into sugarcane farming 25 years ago.
Na awali tulikuwa naletewa mbolea, wanaleta trakta za kulima, transport wenyewe wanabeba. Ukienda watu wa Kiboso wanakuambia wako na miwa mingi. Ukienda watu wa West wanakuambia wako na miwa mingi. Sasa hata saa hii miwa iko kwa shamba, sijui nitapeleka wapi. Hata nilikuwa nimeanzisha mjengo wa nyumba. Lakini wakati miwa ilisambaratika ikaingia mambo ya DR, mjengo imesimama, hata sijui kama nitaendelea nimalize.
Mumias Sugar Company began its operations in 1976 after farmers overwhelmingly endorsed the plan and even provided land for its establishment in order to uplift the economy of the region. Years later, things took a bitter twist as mismanagement and embezzlement of funds took center stage. The company was unable to pay its overaccumulated debts, forcing the company to scale down its operations. Mumias East Member of Parliament Benjamin Washali says implementation of non-income generating projects including power generation and water projects was a major setback.
The biggest problems of Mumias was borrowing money from various banks for projects that would not pay back the same amount of money. The cogen that was brought was not the initial cogen that had been planned for because of the capacity of running the motors that would generate power. Because they had planned for initially for the 10 megawatts, which would be easier for the company to run, but they now brought in a 25 megawatts, which was on one side. We did not have enough power and the raw material to run. I took loans to put up a huge building. Even today, it's still sitting in Mumias and nobody has used it even one single day.
The collapse of the company hit hard the region's economy. The once shining towns of Shivale, Mayoni and Panyako that were booming with business are now ghost towns. Shops and buildings that hosted various facilities like banks were all closed due to lack of clients.
If we got a serious investor, I am telling you, Mumias Sugar Company will get back to its feet.
Agri-Office has felt and seen it all, the impact of the closure of the company. He invested in sugarcane farming after his retirement.
Wanatarajia wewe utafute watu wakate uwalipe, wenye kupepa uwalipe, wenye kupanga kwa lori uwalipe, hiyo lori uilipe, na tena ikifika kule kwa mashini kule inaenda, tena watakulipisha transport kutoka kwa hiyo masao yako. Sasa unashindwa utafanya namna gani wewe, na wakati inafika kule pengine umetumia 30,000 na ile utalipwa pengine ni chini ya hiyo.
He says that due to lack of market for sugarcane, his overmature cane continues to waste away in his farm without market for his produce.
Tunaomba kama serikali ingetusikia, angalau iwekeze katika Mumias Sugar Company, iweze kuamuka, iweze kuanza kufanya kazi, at least tuwe tunapeleka huko miwa zetu, kwa sababu sasa kama hizi zangu kupeleka.
In 2015, KPMG forensic report unraveled the genesis of the problems bedeviling Mumias Sugar Company, but to date, its report has never been adopted or recommendations implemented. The national and county governments constituted task force committees to probe the state of the company and the sugar sector as a whole. Farmers now want prosecution of individuals who ran down the company as recommended by the KPMG report. In June 2015, the national government released 1 billion Kenyan shillings in attempt to bail out farmers' dues owed them by the company. The company's net losses widened further after tax loss of Kenyan shillings 6.7 billion shillings in the year 2017 compared to 4.75 billion shillings loss it had posted in the year 2016. The miller attributing the loss to acute shortage of cane. In September 2019, the company was placed under receivership by KCB Bank after defaulting two loans. KCB Bank appointed Ponangipal Rao to take over the company as the receiver manager.
Our intention is not to sell the assets and go away. We are going to revive the operations. From the day one, we started working in that direction.
Washali says that farmers and millers will only find reprieve if proper regulations and policies are put in place to govern the sugar sector.
Violet, we have talked about regulations. The sugar sector has never been regulated. For a very, very long time, it has never been regulated. We have regulations in the cabinet sector, in the Ministry of Agriculture today that have been there forever. Once we get the regulations, and which means we shall manage the quantities of sugar that is important. We shall manage the quantities and qualities of sugar that is produced, who has to produce what, whether we will do zoning or no zoning, so that we can also manage the internal unfair competition.
Rao says they have a solid plan to revive the company, promising to breathe life to the financially struggling company. The turnaround strategy that will focus on the recovery in the coming years. He encouraged farmers to embark on sugarcane farming and even oversaw plowing and planting of sugarcane on 10 acres of the company's nuclear estates.
So much of development going on in nucleus estate. We already started plowing of the nucleus estate phase-wise. So very soon, we are going to complete our target of about 1,600 hectares.
Recently, Ponangipal began the search of an investor to revive the company, a move that split members of the political class from the region, escalating into long and ending battles.
Let the bank and the receiver take care of the factory together with distillery and all, and also the nucleus estate development, whereas the county government would try to sensitize the farmers.
To an extent, I agree that politicians played a negative role, and that's why the current approach should be that the politicians should desist from making negative comments until when we sit and agree with the would-be investors, so that we don't politicize what is happening in Mumias so much to an extent that the investors would get scared away.
Demonstrations by locals in the sugar-growing regions were also witnessed, as some supported while others opposed the planned listing of the company, demanding transparency in the bidding process.
Wanataka kuamsha kiwanda chetu cha Mumias. Wanasiasa wenye hawana mbele na nyuma. Wanasiasa wa majuzi hivi karibuni wanakuja wanasimama mbele kama mlima Elgo. Tuliwachagua wakuja watusimamie katika masuala yetu nyeti, na badala ya kusimamia katika masuala yetu nyeti, wale wanatusumbua na kutukoroga.
As for now, the hopes of over 90% of farmers who depended on the company is that the ongoing course to search for an investor to take over the revival of the company will bear fruits.
Hao wako kwa payroll wanakula mshahara, sisi huku chini tunahangaika. Tena hao nia yao kuu ni sisi wananchi wa chini tukae bila chochote, ili wakati watakuja na shilingi 50 ama 100 tupige makoti wakitupatia hiyo shilingi sawa 50 ndio tuwapee kura, kwa sababu wanajua hii kiwanda ikiamuka watu watakuwa na pesa, hawatakimbilia shilingi sawa 50.
As Mumias sugar revival plans continues, farmers here in Western region are eagerly waiting for the reopening of the sleeping giant, though some farmers say they are reading the same scripts of political gimmicks orchestrated by leaders during electioneering period.